My husband dubbed our son's attempt a stunt, destroyed his therapy logs, and reported me to child services. So, I prioritized my kids above him. This was 3 months prior. He was just removed from school grounds for observing our son's lunch from his vehicle. Can you imagine the terror of watching your own child slip away, feeling his heartbeat outside your body, exposed to a world that just doesn't understand? Now, picture this. The person who should be your rock, your partner in protecting that precious heart, becomes the biggest threat. What would you do if your husband, the father of your children, actively endangered your son's life? For 22 years, my husband and I built a life together. We had 2 boys, Zach and Michael. Zach, my oldest, he's a force of nature, captain of the baseball team, popular, just a solid, good kid. But Michael was different. From the moment he was born, I knew he was special, sensitive. He'd get frustrated so easily, cried a lot, even wet the bed until he was almost 13. Now, at 16, he battles crushing anxiety and dark, heavy bouts of depression. When he was little, Michael wasn't a tantrum thrower. He'd just lie down wherever he was and stare, completely lost in his own world. But around 12, these episodes started. He just couldn't get out of bed. I'd find him there, wrapped in blankets, eyes fixed on the wall. I'd ask him what was wrong, how I could help, and all he could whisper was, "I'm sad, Mom." I don't know why. That same year, I got him into therapy. He's been seeing the same amazing therapist ever since. My husband, David, though, he was absent. He doesn't believe in depression. He called it a phase. He just ignored Michael's struggles, brushed me off every time I tried to talk about it. It was like he simply refused to acknowledge that part of our son. And it broke my heart. I did everything I could for my baby, but David? He chose denial. He even scolded Michael for staying in bed. My blood would boil. I'd tell him, "Leave him alone. You're not helping." He barely had a relationship with Zach either, especially after Zach started seeing how David treated Michael. David's carelessness, his outright cruelty towards Michael, infuriated me. But Zach? My oldest son was a guardian angel. He's always been fiercely protective. When Michael had a bad week, Zach would sleep on his floor every single night, just to be near him. He'd put on movies, YouTube videos, anything to try and coax Michael out of his shell. It was hard for Zach to watch his brother suffer, and we had so many late-night talks about how he could best support Michael. Years passed. The pattern was relentless. A good couple of weeks, then one morning, Michael wouldn't come down for breakfast. And I just knew. He was back in that dark hole. It ripped me apart. As his mother, I would have done anything to take away his pain. We tried everything, different antidepressants, new therapists, specialists. Nothing seemed to stick. But when Michael was on, he was brilliant. A straight-A student, a walking encyclopedia. He devoured nonfiction, loved history. I knew he had a future, a bright one. One day, we were in the kitchen, and he was enthusiastically telling me about his history class. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "If I grow up, I think I want to become a history professor." If I grow up. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stopped everything. "Michael," I asked, my voice trembling, "why if you are going to grow up? You have your whole life ahead of you." He just shrugged. I wrapped him in the tightest hug I could, careful not to hurt him. My son, my fragile, emotionally vulnerable son. That's why thinking about what David did, about his cruelty, still makes my blood run cold. For 3 weeks, those 2 words haunted me. If I grow up. They echoed everywhere. As I made breakfast, drove to work, lay awake at night, listening for any sound from Michael's room. I started checking on him constantly, quietly opening his door just to make sure he was still breathing. Zach noticed. Soon, we were passing each other in the hallway at 2 a.m. like silent ships, both pretending we were just getting water. That Tuesday morning started like any other bad day. Michael didn't come down. I climbed the stairs with his favorite blueberry muffin, knocked gently. No answer. I pushed the door open. His bed was empty. Covers thrown back. The bathroom door was closed, but light spilled from underneath. "Michael, honey, are you okay?" Silence. My hand trembled as I tried the handle. Locked. My heart hammered against my ribs. Michael, open the door right now. Nothing. I sprinted to my bedroom, fumbled for the emergency key we kept above the doorframe. I heard Zach's footsteps thundering up the stairs. Mom, what's wrong? I finally got the door open, and then everything stopped. Michael was on the floor, unconscious. An empty bottle of pills lay scattered beside him. His lips had a bluish tint. Vomit pooled near his head. I dropped to my knees, hands shaking as I turned him on his side, searching for a pulse. Weak. But there. Call 911. I screamed at Zach, who stood frozen in the doorway. He snapped into action, pulling out his phone. I heard his voice crack as he gave our address, saying those gut-wrenching words, suicide attempt and OD. I cradled Michael's head, stroking his hair, begging him to stay with me. The paramedics arrived in what felt like hours, but was probably just minutes. They gently but firmly pushed me aside, working with practiced efficiency. Oxygen mask, 4-line, vital signs called out in clinical, detached tones. They loaded him onto a stretcher. I climbed into the ambulance without thinking. Zach said he'd call his father and follow. The ride to the hospital was a blur of beeping machines and medical jargon. They pumped his stomach in the ER while I stood there, helpless, watching them work on my baby. A nurse led me to a waiting room. I sat there, still in my pajamas, Michael's vomit staining my shirt. 45 minutes later, David burst through the doors. His face was red, not with panic, as I first thought, but with fury. How could he do this to us? Those were his first words. Not, is he okay? Not, what happened? But how could Michael do this to us? He's stable, I said, numb. They're moving him to the ICU for monitoring. This is ridiculous. David paced like a caged animal. We give him everything. And this is how he repays us? With this, stunt. Stunt? My voice was barely a whisper. Our son tried to kill himself, and you think it's a stunt? What else would you call it? He shot back. He's looking for attention, Sarah. We need to stop coddling him. Zach, who'd been silent in the corner, suddenly stood up. Are you serious right now? He almost died. Don't be dramatic, David snapped. He knew we'd find him. If he really wanted to, he would have done it right. Something inside me just broke at those words. But before I could respond, a doctor appeared. Dr. Patel. Kind eyes, but a serious expression. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, your son is awake. He's groggy but responsive. However, given the circumstances, we're placing him on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Is that really necessary? David crossed his arms. Can't we just take him home? Dr. Patel's expression hardened. Mr. Thompson, your son ingested a potentially lethal dose of medication. The hold is mandatory. He needs psychiatric evaluation and monitoring. This is ridiculous, David muttered. But the doctor was already turning to lead us to Michael's room. My baby looked so small in that hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and IVs. His eyes fluttered open when I touched his hand. Mom? His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Tears leaked from the corners of his eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Shoo, I whispered. Don't apologize. Just rest. David stood at the foot of the bed, his jaw clenched. You scared your mother half to death. Do you have any idea what you put us through? Michael's heart rate spiked on the monitor. I squeezed his hand and shot David a warning look. Not now, I hissed. When then, Sarah? When do we address this? This selfishness. Dad, stop. Zach moved between David and the bed. Just stop. A nurse appeared, alerted by the monitor. I'm going to have to ask you all to step out for a moment. We need to keep him calm. In the hallway, David exploded. This is what comes from all your coddling. Years of therapy, medications, special treatment, and look where it's gotten us. Our son needs help, I said through gritted teeth. Real help. Not your lectures about manning up. He needs discipline, structure. Not more pills and pity parties. The doctor said family therapy is part of the treatment plan, Zach interjected. We all need to participate. David scoffed. I'm not sitting in some circle talking about my feelings. Michael needs to learn that life is hard, and you push through it. Over the next 3 days, the divide in our family became a chasm. I spent every possible moment at the psychiatric ward. David came once, sat in the family therapy session with his arms crossed, checking his phone. When the therapist, Dr. Martinez, asked him about his views on mental health, he actually said, "I think it's mostly an excuse for weakness." Michael, still fragile and medicated, flinched. Dr. Martinez just made notes, her expression carefully neutral. Zach broke down during his individual session. I was in the waiting room when he came out, eyes red and puffy. He collapsed beside me. "I knew, Mom. I knew he was getting worse." "What do you mean?" He pulled out his phone, trembling, and showed me text messages from Michael over the past month. At first glance, they looked normal. But reading closer, I saw it. Subtle goodbyes. "Thanks for being the best brother. Tell Mom I love her. You're going to do amazing things, Zach." "I've been sleeping on his floor because I was scared." Zach's voice broke. "Every night I'd check if he was breathing." "I should have told you." "I should have." "No." I pulled him into my arms. "This is not your fault. You've been protecting him the best way you knew how." When Michael was released, Dr. Martinez pulled me aside. "Mrs. Thompson, your son is in a very precarious state. The home environment needs to be supportive and understanding. I'm concerned about your husband's attitude." "I'll handle it," I promised, though I had no idea how. The ride home was silent. Michael sat between Zach and me in the back seat. David drove, his jaw working, his anger radiating through the car. At home, I made Michael's room a sanctuary. Fresh sheets, his favorite snacks, new books. He managed a small smile. "Thanks, Mom." "There are going to be some changes around here," David announced from the doorway. "No more lying in bed all day. You'll be up by 7 a.m. No exceptions." "David," I started. "No, Sarah. We tried it your way. Now we do it mine." He turned to Michael. "And these." He grabbed Michael's therapy journals from his desk. "No more pity parties on paper. You need to focus on the future, not wallow in negativity." Michael's face crumpled. "Those are private." "Nothing is private when you pull a stunt like this," David sneered. "You lost that privilege." "Get out," I said quietly. David turned, eyebrows raised. "Excuse me." "Get out of his room." "Now." I stood, moving between David and Michael. "Get out." David stormed off, heavy footsteps thudding downstairs, his office door slamming. That night, I found Zach back on Michael's floor with his pillow and blanket. "You don't have to," Michael started. "Yes, I do," Zach said firmly. "Until you're better, however long it takes." I brought them hot chocolate and sat on the floor with them. We didn't talk about what happened. Just watched stupid videos on Zach's phone until Michael's medication made him drowsy. The next few days established a horrifying new pattern. David would bang on Michael's door at 7 a.m. If Michael didn't respond, David would storm in, yank the covers off. I intervened every single time, leading to screaming matches that only pushed Michael further into himself. "You're making him worse," I shouted one morning after David had left. "At least I'm doing something," he shot back. "Your approach nearly got him killed." Then the extended family started calling. I discovered David had been telling everyone Michael had accidentally taken too many pills. He was erasing our son's pain-to-save face. "Aunt Linda thinks I mixed up my medications," Michael told me, his voice flat. "Dad told her I was confused because of all the different pills you had me on." My hands clenched into fists. "Your father is misguided, baby. What happened wasn't an accident. And it's not your fault. You're sick. And sick people need treatment, not shame." The breaking point came 2 weeks after the hospital. I'd run to the pharmacy. Zach was at baseball practice. I'd only been gone an hour, but when I came home, I heard shouting from upstairs. I ran up to find David physically dragging Michael out of bed. Michael was sobbing, trying to curl into a ball, while David pulled at his arms. "Get up. Get up. I'm sick of this act. Stop." I dropped the pharmacy bag and rushed forward. "Let go of him. He needs to learn." Zach appeared in the doorway, still in his baseball uniform. He took in the scene. Something dark crossed his face. He crossed the room in 2 strides and shoved David away from Michael. Hard. You're going to kill him. Zach screamed, positioning himself between his father and brother. Don't you get it? You're going to ***ing kill him. David, shocked by the physical confrontation, stepped back. How dare you? How dare you? Zach's voice cracked. He's sick. He's not weak. He's not attention-seeking. He's sick. And you? You make him feel like he's worthless for something he can't control. This is what your mother's coddling has done, David said coldly. Turned you both soft. Get out, I said. My voice was deadly calm as I knelt beside Michael, who was shaking on the floor. Get out of this room right now. David left, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I held Michael while he sobbed, Zach sitting on his other side, rubbing his back. We stayed like that until Michael's breathing evened out and he fell into an exhausted sleep. That night, after I'd gotten Michael settled with Zach standing guard, I went looking for the therapy journals. I found David in his office, feeding them into the shredder. What are you doing? I gasped. Destroying these toxic thoughts, he said, without looking up. He needs to move forward, not dwell on. I lunged for the shredder, unplugging it. But half the journals were already gone. Years of Michael's private thoughts, his work with Dr. Martinez. Destroyed. Those were his. Those were part of his treatment. Treatment? David scoffed. For years of treatment, and he still tried to pull this stunt? The treatment isn't working, Sarah. The treatment is the only thing keeping him alive. I clutched the remaining journals to my chest. And you? You're destroying it. You're destroying him. I'm trying to save him from himself. No, I said, a cold clarity washing over me. You're trying to save yourself from the embarrassment of having a son with mental illness. Something in my voice must have alerted him. David's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to leave tonight. Pack a bag and go to your brother's. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. You're a danger to our son. You leave tonight, or I call the police and report you for child endangerment. Child endangerment? For trying to get him out of bed. For physically assaulting a mentally ill minor. For denying him medical care. For destroying his medical documents. Yes, David. Child endangerment. We stared at each other across the ruins of Michael's journals. 22 years of marriage. It came down to this moment. My son or my husband. It wasn't even a choice. David packed in silence. I sat in Michael's room, hearing drawers slamming, muttered curses. Zach sat with me. Neither of us spoke. We both knew this had been coming. Maybe we'd known for years. David appeared in the doorway one last time, suitcase in hand. You're going to regret this. When he's 30 and still living in your basement, unable to function, you'll realize I was right. If he makes it to 30, I said quietly, I'll consider that a victory. He left without another word. I heard his car start, pull away. The house felt immediately lighter, like a storm had passed. Mom? Michael's voice was small in the darkness. Yeah, baby. Is Dad gone for now? Yes. There was a long pause. Then good. Zach squeezed my shoulder. We sat in the darkness, our broken little family of 3. But for the first time in years, I felt like we could breathe. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, custody papers, difficult conversations. But tonight, my boys were safe. And that was enough. The next morning, I called Dr. Martinez. She immediately offered to write a letter for the custody hearing, documenting David's refusal to participate and his harmful attitudes. I've been concerned about the home dynamic for some time, she admitted. Michael often spoke about feeling like a disappointment to his father. The separation might actually be beneficial for his recovery. I made an appointment with a family lawyer that afternoon. Zach came with me, insisting he wanted to testify. The lawyer, Patricia, a kind woman, listened with growing concern. The physical altercation, the destruction of documents, the refusal to acknowledge the suicide attempt. We can build a strong case for emergency custody and a restraining order, she said. The fact that your older son witnessed much of this will be helpful. That evening, as I was making dinner, my phone rang. David's brother. Sarah, what's this nonsense about you kicking David out? He says you've lost your mind. He's a danger to Michael, I said simply. Oh, come on. David told me about the attention-seeking behavior. The boy needs discipline, not I hung up. I didn't have the energy for another person who didn't believe in mental illness. Over the next few days, a pattern emerged. David's family called to scold me. My family called to support me. Michael, however, started coming downstairs for meals without being forced. It was a small thing, but it felt monumental. I can breathe, Michael told Dr. Martinez at his next appointment, which I was invited to join. I didn't realize how much energy I was spending trying to not disappoint him until he was gone. Dr. Martinez leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. That's significant progress, Michael. How are you feeling about the medication adjustments? Better, Michael admitted quietly. The new combination doesn't make me feel as foggy. I watched my son, noting how he sat up straighter, how his shoulders weren't constantly hunched in a defensive posture. It had only been a few days, but already subtle changes. He made eye contact more. Dr. Martinez spoke to me privately. Sarah, I need to be frank. The environment at home was actively hindering his recovery. His father's attitudes were reinforcing every negative thought pattern we've been working to address. This separation, while difficult, may be exactly what Michael needs. I nodded, feeling both validated and guilty. I should have done something sooner. You're doing something now, she said. That's what matters. I'm recommending intensive outpatient therapy for Michael. And I'd like to include Zach in some family sessions if he's willing. He's been carrying a tremendous burden. That evening, I found Zach and Michael in Michael's room, working on history homework together. It was such a normal scene it made my chest ache. This is what we'd been missing. Simple, peaceful moments. Mom, can you help me with this essay? Michael asked, looking up from his laptop. It's about the French Revolution, and I want to make sure I'm explaining the economic factors correctly. I sat on the edge of his bed. His writing was brilliant, as always, but I could see where his confidence wavered. We worked through it together, Zach chiming in. The doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'll get it, Zach said. No, I will. I peered through the peephole to see David's mother, Margaret, standing on our porch, expression stern. I took a deep breath. Opened the door. Sarah, her voice was ice cold. I'm here to talk sense into you. This isn't a good time, Margaret. She pushed past me. 22 years of marriage and you throw it away because David tried to help his son? Have you lost your mind? Margaret, please keep your voice down. The boys need their father. She whirled on me, her face flushed. David told me everything. How you coddle Michael, how you've turned him weak with all these therapists and pills. That boy needs discipline. That boy tried to kill himself. The words exploded out of me. Your grandson took an entire bottle of pills and nearly died. And your son's response was to call it attention-seeking. Margaret's expression didn't soften. Because that's what it was. David said if he'd really meant it, he would have get out. My voice was deadly quiet. Get out of my house right now. You can't. I can and I will. This is my home, and you're not welcome here if you're going to spread David's poison about my son's illness. She left in a huff, warning me that I'd regret this, that David would fight for custody, that I was ruining my children. I locked the door, leaning against it, shaking. Mom? Zach appeared at the top of the stairs. We heard shouting. Just your grandmother. It's handled. Michael appeared beside his brother, face pale. She thinks I'm faking, too, doesn't she? I climbed the stairs and pulled both my boys into a hug. What she thinks doesn't matter. What matters is that you're getting better, and we're going to keep you safe. The next few weeks fell into a new routine. Michael attended his intensive therapy sessions, and slowly, incrementally, he began to improve. He started showering regularly again. He came downstairs for breakfast most mornings without prompting. He even laughed at one of Zach's terrible jokes during dinner. But David wasn't giving up quietly. The calls from his family continued, each more hostile. Then came the letters from his lawyer. He was demanding joint custody, claiming I was an unfit mother who was medically abusing our son. Patricia, my lawyer, was reassuring. He's going to make this ugly. We need to document everything. I started keeping meticulous records, photos of Michael doing homework, eating meals, spending time with friends who started visiting again. Zach wrote a detailed statement about what he'd witnessed. Dr. Martinez prepared a comprehensive report on Michael's treatment history and David's refusal to participate. The court date was set. In the meantime, David was granted supervised visitation, which Michael was required to attend. The first visit was a Saturday afternoon at a neutral location. That morning, Michael couldn't eat. "I don't want to see him," he whispered. "I know, baby, but it's just for 2 hours. The supervisor will be there the whole time. What if he says things? Then you tell the supervisor immediately. You don't have to take any abuse." Zach drove us there. He couldn't go in, but he insisted on waiting in the parking lot. I walked Michael to the door, where Mrs. Park, a kind-looking woman, introduced herself as the supervisor. "I'll be in the room the entire time," she assured us. "If you feel uncomfortable, Michael, just let me know." I watched my son walk in, shoulders hunched, looking smaller than his 16 years. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. Zach and I sat in the car, neither of us speaking, both watching the door. When Michael finally emerged, his face was blotchy and red. He climbed into the back seat without a word. It wasn't until we got home that he finally spoke. "He brought photo albums," Michael said quietly. "Pictures from when I was little, before I got sick." He made air quotes around sick. He kept talking about how happy I used to be, how normal I was. He said Mom convinced me I was depressed, that the therapist put ideas in my head. My hands clenched on the steering wheel. What did the supervisor do? She took notes, lots of notes. When Dad started getting loud, she reminded him to keep his voice down. But she didn't stop him from saying those things. That night, Michael had his worst episode since David left. I found him in the bathroom at 3 a.m. Not attempting anything, just sitting on the floor, crying. Zach was already there, sitting beside him, their shoulders touching. "He's never going to believe me," Michael sobbed. "He's never going to see me as anything but broken and disappointing." I sat on Michael's other side, the three of us crowded onto the cold bathroom floor. "Then that's his loss," I said fiercely. "Because I see a brilliant, brave young man who fights every single day against an illness that would crush most people. I see someone who, despite everything, still gets straight A's and helps his brother with math homework and makes me laugh with his history facts. But what if the court believes him?" Michael's voice was small. "What if they make me live with him?" "That's not going to happen," I said with more confidence than I felt. "We have documentation. We have Dr. Martinez. We have the truth." The supervised visits continued weekly, each one chipping away at Michael's progress. David never directly violated the rules, but he found ways to undermine everything. He brought Michael's old sports trophies, reminiscing about when his son was normal. He questioned every aspect of Michael's treatment. He even brought articles about over-medication and false depression diagnoses. After the 4th visit, Mrs. Park pulled me aside. "I'm documenting everything," she said quietly. "Mr. Thompson's behavior is concerning. He seems unable to accept your son's medical condition." Small comfort, but I took what I could get. The breaking point came during the 6th visit. I was in the waiting room when I heard shouting. Mrs. Park's voice, sharp with authority. Then David's, angry and defensive. The door burst open and Michael ran out, face white with panic. "Mom, we need to go now." Mrs. Park followed, grim-faced. "The visit is terminated." Mr. Thompson attempted to convince Michael to stop taking his medication. When Michael refused, Mr. Thompson became verbally aggressive. David appeared in the doorway, face red. "This is ridiculous. I'm trying to help my son by telling him his medication is poison. By saying his mother and doctor are conspiring to keep him sick?" Mrs. Park's voice was steel. "That's not help, Mr. Thompson. That's harmful. You're all part of it," David shouted. "This whole system, drugging kids instead of teaching them to be strong." Security arrived to escort David out. Michael was shaking so badly I had to help him to the car. That night, he asked to sleep in my room, something he hadn't done since he was 7. I made a bed for him on the floor. Zach joined us, dragging his mattress. We were a fortress of pillows and blankets, protecting each other from the world. Patricia filed an emergency motion the next day to suspend visitation. The judge granted it. David's response was swift and vicious, a countermotion claiming parental alienation, saying I turned the boys against him. The stress began affecting all of us. Zach's grades started slipping. He quit baseball, saying he needed to be home more. I caught him checking on Michael constantly, the worry lines on his young face breaking my heart. You need to live your life too, I told him. Michael wouldn't want you giving up everything for him. I'm not giving up anything, Zach said firmly. I'm choosing to be here. There's a difference. Michael, surprisingly, began showing a different kind of strength. The worse David's attacks became, the more determined Michael seemed to prove him wrong. He threw himself into his treatment, participating actively in therapy, even joining a support group. I want to get better, he told Dr. Martinez. Not because my dad thinks I'm faking, but in spite of it. I want to get better because I deserve to. Dr. Martinez smiled. That's the healthiest motivation you could have, Michael. Recovery for yourself, not to please or spite anyone. 2 weeks before the custody hearing, David escalated again. He started showing up at places he knew we'd be, the grocery store, the pharmacy, outside Michael's school. He never approached us, just watched. It was intimidating. Patricia immediately filed for a restraining order. This is harassment, she said. He's trying to intimidate you. The restraining order was granted, but it didn't stop David's family from ramping up their campaign. His sister called to say I was destroying the family. His brother sent a letter. Even family friends chose sides, most believing David's version. I lost count of how many people I had to block on social media after they posted about depression being an excuse for laziness, how kids these days were overmedicated, how a strong father figure could fix everything. Each post felt like a personal attack on my suffering son. One evening, I found Michael reading these posts on his phone, tears streaming down his face. Why do they hate me? He asked. Why do they think I'm choosing to be this way? I took his phone gently. They don't hate you. They're ignorant. There's a difference. Dad hates me. I pulled him close. Your dad hates what he doesn't understand. He's scared of anything he can't control or fix with tough love. That's his failing, not yours. But what if he wins? What if the judge believes him? Then we'll appeal. We'll fight. We'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Zach joined us on the couch, making it a group hug. Dad's not winning anything, he said fiercely. I won't let him. I'll tell the judge everything. How he used to scream at you for crying. How he called you weak. How he made you feel worthless for something you can't control. Michael leaned into his brother. I'm scared. Me too, Zach admitted. But we're together. That's what matters. The night before the hearing, none of us slept well. I heard both boys moving around, checking on each other. At 3 a.m., I gave up and made hot chocolate. We sat around the kitchen table in our pajamas, not talking about tomorrow, just being together. Whatever happens, I said finally, I want you both to know how proud I am of you. Zach, you've been the most amazing brother. And Michael, you've shown more courage in the last few months than most people show in a lifetime. I don't feel courageous, Michael said quietly. I feel tired. Courage isn't about not being tired or scared, I told him. It's about keeping going anyway. And you do, every single day. The morning of the hearing dawned gray and drizzly, matching our mood. I dressed carefully. The boys wore suits, looking older and more serious. Patricia met us at the courthouse. Remember, tell the truth. Don't let David's lawyer rattle you. The facts are on our side. We entered to find David already there, looking thinner, older, angrier. His eyes met mine, and the hostility there made me shiver. This was really happening. 22 years of marriage, reduced to a custody battle that would determine my son's future. The judge entered, and my heart began to pound. Everything we'd been through, everything we'd fought for, came down to this. I squeezed Michael's hand. Zach sat on his other side, protective as always. The hearing began. David's lawyer painted a picture of a concerned father trying to save his son from an overprotective mother who'd convinced the boy he was mentally ill for attention and control. Our lawyer countered with medical evidence, the suicide attempt, David's documented refusal to acknowledge mental illness. Dr. Martinez took the stand first, calmly explaining Michael's diagnosis, his treatment history, and David's complete absence. She detailed how David's attitudes actively harmed Michael's recovery. David's lawyer tried to discredit her, suggesting a financial incentive. Dr. Martinez remained unruffled. Mrs. Park testified next about the supervised visits, particularly the final incident where David tried to convince Michael to stop his medication. Her notes were thorough and damning. When it was David's turn, he presented himself as a loving father, just trying to help his son be strong. He claimed I'd babied Michael, that I'd created his problems by constantly taking him to doctors. He actually used the phrase tough love multiple times. Then came the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating. Zach asked to testify. My 18-year-old son took the stand with remarkable composure. He spoke about years of watching his father belittle Michael's struggles. About the night he found Michael's suicide note, hidden in a textbook, which he'd never told anyone about until now. About sleeping on his brother's floor, not out of solidarity, but out of genuine fear that he'd lose him. About the physical altercation when David dragged Michael from bed. My father doesn't believe in mental illness, Zach said clearly. He thinks depression is a choice. He thinks my brother is weak. But Michael is the strongest person I know. He fights every single day against something Dad refuses to even acknowledge exists. And Dad's denial nearly killed him. David's lawyer tried to suggest I'd coached Zach. Nobody told me what to say. Zach held firm. I'm here because I love my brother, and I've seen what my father's help does to him. It makes him want to die. The word hung heavy in the courtroom. Die. Such a final word from such a young man. Michael chose to submit a written statement. I saw the judge's expression change as she read it, her professional mask slipping to show genuine concern. Closing arguments rehashed everything. David's lawyer insisted this was about a father's rights. Our lawyer focused on Michael's safety, his medical needs, and David's documented refusal to accept his son's illness. The judge said she would review all evidence and issue a decision within a week. We left the courthouse emotionally drained. Michael was quiet on the drive home. That night, as had become our habit, we all ended up in the living room. None of us wanted to be alone. We ordered pizza, watched mindless TV, just being together. I'm proud of you, I told Zach during a commercial break. What you did today was incredibly brave. He shrugged. I just told the truth. Michael would do the same for me. I would, Michael said quietly. It was the first thing he'd said since leaving the courthouse. But I hope I never have to. The week of waiting was torture. Patricia warned us not to get our hopes up. But I couldn't help hoping the judge had seen what I saw. I tried to keep us busy. Movies, elaborate meals, anything to distract. Michael continued therapy, and Dr. Martinez noted he was showing remarkable resilience. This experience, as difficult as it's been, has shown Michael that he has people willing to fight for him, she told me. That's powerful for someone with depression. It counters the voice telling him he's worthless. Finally, on a Thursday afternoon, Patricia called. The judge has issued her decision. Can you come to my office? We piled into the car, my hands shaking so badly Zach offered to drive. At Patricia's office, she had us sit. The judge granted you sole, legal, and physical custody, she said. I nearly collapsed with relief. David has been granted supervised therapeutic visitation only, contingent on his participation in counseling to address his attitudes toward mental health. He must complete a minimum of 6 months of therapy before any unsupervised contact can be considered. I burst into tears. Zach hooped and hugged Michael, who sat stunned. She really believed me? Michael asked in wonder. She believed the evidence, Patricia said gently. Your father's own testimony showed he's currently unable to provide appropriate care for a child with mental health needs. The judge was particularly concerned by his attempts to interfere with your medication. There was more. David would have to pay child support, contribute to medical expenses. The restraining order would remain in effect. Any violation would result in criminal charges. We left the office in a daze. In the car, Michael suddenly said, I want ice cream. The really expensive kind. With the chunks of cookie dough. It was such a normal teenage request that Zach and I both laughed. We drove to the fancy ice cream shop downtown, the one we usually avoided because it was overpriced. Today, it felt like a bargain for celebrating keeping our family safe. As we sat there, each with ridiculous sundaes, Michael looked at both of us. "Thank you," he said simply. "For fighting for me. For believing me. For everything." "Always," I said, squeezing his hand. "That's what family does." "Our real family," Zach added pointedly. "The one that matters." That night, for the first time in months, Michael slept in his own room without Zach on the floor. Progress came in small steps, but it was still progress. We had won the legal battle, but the war for Michael's mental health would continue. The difference now was that we could fight it without David undermining every step. The next morning brought a new challenge. David's family exploded on social media, calling me vindictive, claiming I'd stolen David's children. I was about to respond when Michael stopped me. "Don't," he said. "They don't matter. Let them think what they want. We know the truth." Such wisdom from someone so young. I closed my laptop and made breakfast instead. Zach came down wearing his baseball jersey. "I'm going back to the team," he announced. "If that's okay." "I mean, if you don't need me here, go," Michael said firmly. "Please. I need you to have a life too." "I'm okay. Better than okay." It wasn't entirely true yet, but it was becoming true. Day by day, with proper treatment and support, without David's toxic presence, Michael was finding his way back to himself. Not the normal child David wanted, but the brilliant, sensitive, struggling, surviving person he actually was. The road ahead was still long. There would be bad days, setbacks, medication adjustments, ongoing therapy. But now we could walk that road without someone constantly trying to convince Michael that the road itself was imaginary. That afternoon, I found Michael in his room, writing in a new journal. He looked up when I knocked. "Dr. Martinez suggested I start again," he explained. "Since Dad destroyed the old ones. She said it might help to write about everything that's happened." "How does it feel?" He considered the question seriously. "Like I'm writing my own story now. Not the one Dad wanted, but the real one. The true one." I kissed the top of his head, marveling at this young man who'd been through so much and was still standing, still fighting, still writing his story, one page at a time. As I left his room, I heard him murmur something that made my heart soar. "When I grow up, I want to help kids like me. Kids whose parents don't believe them. When, not if. When." The word was everything. The weeks following the custody decision brought a deceptive calm. David went radio silent, which somehow felt more ominous than his previous attacks. I kept expecting him to show up, violate the restraining order, do something. But nothing came. Michael continued his intensive therapy schedule. 3 mornings a week, I drove him to Dr. Martinez's office, watching him walk in with slightly less reluctance each time. He started participating in group therapy sessions, though he came home exhausted from the emotional work. One Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from the school counselor. My heart immediately started racing. Calls from school were never good news with Michael's history. "Mrs. Thompson, I wanted to let you know that Michael had a panic attack during history class today. He's okay now, resting in my office, but I thought you should know." I rushed to the school, finding Michael curled up on the counselor's couch, pale and drawn. "I'm sorry," Michael whispered as we walked to the car. "I thought I was getting better." "You're getting better," I assured him. "Recovery isn't a straight line, baby. There will be setbacks." That evening, Zach came home from practice to find Michael back in bed. Without a word, he grabbed his sleeping bag and set up camp on the floor again. "You don't have to," Michael started. "Yes, I do. Bad days mean we stick together." The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm Rebecca Harrison from Child Protective Services. We've received a report of medical neglect and need to investigate." My blood ran cold. "A report from whom?" I'm not at liberty to say. I let her in. She walked through our home, taking notes, asking to see Michael's room, checking our medicine cabinet. Michael and Zach watched from the top of the stairs, frozen. "I'll need to speak with Michael privately," Miss Harrison said. "He's a minor. I have the right to be present." We sat in the living room, Michael pressed against my side. Miss Harrison asked about his medical care, his therapy, his medications. Michael answered quietly but clearly, explaining his diagnosis, his treatment plan, how much better he'd been doing since his father left. I'll also need to speak with his treatment providers and copies of all medical records. After she left, we sat in stunned silence. Then Zach exploded. It was Dad. It had to be Dad. He's trying to get us taken away. Michael started shaking. Can he do that? Can they take me away? No, I said firmly, though inside I was terrified. We have documentation. We have Dr. Martinez. We have the truth. Patricia confirmed our suspicions. David's within his rights to make a report, unfortunately. But given the custody ruling and his documented attitudes, CPS will likely see this for what it is. Retaliation. The investigation hung over us like a storm cloud. Miss Harrison interviewed Dr. Martinez, reviewed Michael's medical records, even spoke to Mrs. Park. Each step felt like another invasion, another way David could hurt us. During this time, Michael's anxiety skyrocketed. He started having nightmares. One night, I found him in the bathroom with scissors. Not hurting himself, but staring at them with a terrifying blankness. I wasn't going to, he said when I gently took them away. I wanted to know I could. Does that make sense? It did, in a heartbreaking way. Control was something he had so little of. Dr. Martinez called an emergency session. Michael, I need you to be completely honest. Are you having thoughts of hurting yourself? He nodded, tears streaming. Not a plan, just thoughts like, maybe everyone would be better off. That's your depression lying to you, she said firmly. I think we need to adjust your treatment. I'm recommending a partial hospitalization program. You'd go during the day for intensive therapy, but come home at night. Michael looked panicked. But what about school? What about your life is more important than school right now? I interrupted. Whatever you need, we'll do it. The program started the following Monday. Every morning, I drove Michael to a facility where he spent 6 hours in various therapies. Every afternoon, I picked him up, exhausted but still fighting. Zach adjusted his schedule to be home when Michael returned, always ready with a snack and a distraction. He never complained. But I could see the toll it was taking on him, too. You can talk to someone, too, I told him one evening. A therapist. This has been traumatic for you. He considered it. Maybe after Michael's more stable. Your mental health matters, too, honey. You can't pour from an empty cup. 2 weeks into the program, Miss Harrison returned with her final report. I found no evidence of medical neglect, she said. In fact, I found a mother going to extraordinary lengths to get her son appropriate treatment for a serious medical condition. I'll be closing this case as unfounded. Relief washed over me so intensely I thought I might faint. Michael started crying, and Zach wrapped him in a fierce hug. I'm also recommending that any future reports from Mr. Thompson be flagged as potential harassment. After she left, we ordered Chinese food. It felt like a victory, but an exhausting one. The partial hospitalization program lasted 6 weeks. Slowly, Michael developed better coping skills. He learned to identify his triggers, use grounding techniques, challenge the negative thoughts. But David wasn't done. If he couldn't use CPS, he'd find other ways. He started having flowers delivered with cards that said things like, "For my son, who I'm not allowed to see, and thinking of you despite the lies." Each delivery sent Michael into a tailspin. Patricia filed a motion about harassment, but the judge said flower deliveries didn't violate the restraining order. Then came the letters to Michael's school, questioning his absences and my educational support. The school thankfully dismissed David's concerns. But the damage was done. Michael felt like everyone was staring at him. I can't go back there, he said after a particularly brutal day. Everyone knows. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. You're not crazy, I said. You're sick. There's a difference. Tell that to them, he said bitterly. We looked into online schooling. It wasn't ideal, but normal had never been Michael's reality anyway. Zach made sure Michael didn't become isolated. He brought friends over, guys from the baseball team. One evening, I overheard Alex, one of Zach's friends, talking to Michael. My sister has anxiety, Alex was saying. She takes medication too. It's not a big deal, man. Better living through chemistry, right? It was such simple acceptance. I saw Michael's shoulders relax. Not everyone would judge him. The supervised therapy sessions David was required to attend became another source of conflict. His therapist contacted Dr. Martinez, and the reports were concerning. David spent most sessions ranting about the injustice, refusing to engage. He's not participating in good faith, Patricia told me. This actually works in our favor. The judge won't modify custody if he's not doing the work. But knowing David was forced into therapy he hated gave him another target for his anger. The flower deliveries escalated to magazine subscriptions we didn't want, food deliveries we didn't order. It was exhausting. Michael's 17th birthday approached. I wanted to make it special. Small celebration, just us, Zach's girlfriend Emma, and a couple of Michael's friends. I made his favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes. 17, I said, kissing his forehead. My baby's getting old. Mom, he groaned, but he was smiling. Zach got him a rare history book. Emma gave him a journal with a lock. For your private thoughts. His friends understood why we were keeping things low-key. We were about to cut the cake when the doorbell rang. My heart sank. Deliveries on his birthday. Of course David would escalate today. But it wasn't flowers. It was a process server with legal documents. David was suing for a modification of custody based on parental alienation and educational neglect. I tried to hide the papers, but Michael had seen. His face went white. He's trying again. It's okay. He won't win. This is just desperation. But the damage to Michael's birthday was done. He retreated to his room. I found him later that night writing furiously in his journal, tears streaming. What are you writing? I asked gently. Everything. Everything he's done. Everything I remember in case I need to testify again. My heart broke. 17 years old and documenting trauma for potential court use. This wasn't the childhood I'd wanted for him. Patricia was furious. He has no grounds. This is harassment through the legal system. She filed a response and a counter-motion for David to pay my legal fees for frivolous litigation. The judge fast-tracked the hearing, recognizing the pattern. The hearing was mercifully quick. David's lawyer presented a weak case. Our lawyer presented Michael's improved grades since online school, his therapy attendance, David's failure to participate. The judge looked tired. Mr. Thompson, I'm not only denying your motion, I'm warning you that continued frivolous filings will result in sanctions. Your son is receiving appropriate care and education. Your inability to accept his medical condition is not grounds for custody modification. David's face turned purple, but his lawyer kept him from speaking. As we left the courthouse, he broke free and shouted across the parking lot. This isn't over. You can't keep my son from me forever. Security intervened, but Michael had heard. He was shaking. It's never going to end, is it? He's never going to stop. I wanted to lie. But Michael deserved honesty. I don't know, baby. But we'll handle whatever comes together. The next few weeks were tense. We waited for the next attack. But surprisingly, nothing came. Patricia theorized the judge's warning had finally gotten through to David's lawyer. Michael slowly began to relax again. He threw himself into online school, excelling in history. His teacher recommended him for an advanced placement course. See, I told him. Your brain is amazing. Depression doesn't change that. He started talking about college again. Though if I grow up had fully transformed back to when I grow up. I treasured every future-focused conversation. Zach got accepted early decision to a college 3 hours away. Michael's first reaction was panic. You can't leave. What if I need you? Hey, Zach interrupted gently. I'm not abandoning you. 3 hours is nothing. I'll come home whenever you need me. And you're getting stronger every day. You've got this. They spent an hour looking at Zach's college website, Michael pointing out history courses. It was a glimpse of normal sibling interaction, planning for a future that finally felt possible. Dr. Martinez started talking about stepping down Michael's treatment intensity. He graduated from the partial hospitalization program. His medication was well balanced. Recovery isn't a destination, she reminded him. It's an ongoing journey, but you're traveling it well. One afternoon, I came home to find Michael in the kitchen making sandwiches. I thought I'd make lunch, he said simply. It was such a small thing, a teenager making sandwiches, but for a kid who 6 months ago had been on the bathroom floor with an empty med bottle, it was everything. He was choosing life in small daily ways. Choosing life over the darkness that had nearly claimed him. That evening, we had a family meeting about Thanksgiving. David's family had made it clear we weren't welcome. My family lived across the country. It would just be the three of us. I want to cook, Michael announced. The whole meal. I've been watching YouTube videos. Zach and I exchanged glances. Michael in the kitchen with knives and stress? But Dr. Martinez had been encouraging him to take on responsibilities. Okay, I said. But we're helping. Family cooking day. His face lit up. Really? You trust me? Always, I said. Meaning it. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Patricia called with unexpected news. David's therapist submitted a report stating that David had terminated treatment against medical advice. He'd apparently had a breakthrough session where the therapist challenged his views on mental illness, and David had stormed out, refusing to return. This means he's violated the court order, Patricia explained. He can't petition for any custody modification. Now, he's essentially locked himself out of Michael's life until he completes treatment. I felt a complex mix of emotions. Relief that we were protected. Sadness that David was choosing his pride over his son. Anger that it had come to this. But mostly, I felt free. For the first time in months, we had real protection from his interference. I told the boys that evening. Zach hooped and high-fived Michael, who sat quietly processing. So he chose being right over being my dad? Michael finally asked. I'm sorry, baby. That's his loss. No, Michael said firmly. It's not. Because I have a family. A real one. People who believe me and fight for me and love me, even when my brain is broken. He's the one who lost. That night, I found him writing in his journal again. But this time, he was smiling slightly as he wrote. Progress. Thanksgiving arrived, gray and cold, but our kitchen was warm and full of laughter. Michael had planned an ambitious menu. The turkey was slightly dry, the mashed potatoes had lumps, and the pie crust was lopsided. It was perfect. As we sat down, Michael raised his glass of sparkling cider. I want to make a toast. To making it through. To still being here. To family that's chosen, not just born. And to all the Thanksgivings to come. We clinked glasses, and I had to blink back tears. 6 months ago, I'd found him unconscious on the bathroom floor. Now he was toasting to future Thanksgivings. It wasn't a cure. He still had bad days, still took medication, still went to therapy. But he was choosing life, choosing future, choosing us. After dinner, we played board games, watched movies. The three of us squished on the couch under blankets. Normal family things. Beautifully, wonderfully normal. As midnight approached, I started gathering plates. Michael stopped me. Mom, wait. I have something to say. My heart rate spiked. But Michael looked determined rather than distressed. I've been thinking about what I want to do with my life. And I know what I want to study in college. History, Zach. Yes, but specifically, the history of mental health treatment. How we've evolved from asylums to actual medical care. I want to research it, write about it, maybe teach it someday. Because kids like me deserve to know that we haven't always been understood, but understanding is growing, that people like Dad are becoming the minority, that it gets better. I pulled him into a hug, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. My broken, brilliant boy, who'd found purpose in his pain, who wanted to use his experience to help others, who was choosing to make meaning from suffering. That sounds perfect, I whispered. I'm going to need help, he said. College applications and everything. I'm scared, but I want to try. We'll figure it out together, Zach promised, just like everything else. As we finally headed to bed, Michael paused at his doorway. Mom, thank you. For choosing me. For fighting for me. For believing me. Just, thank you. Always, I said. Every single time I choose you. He smiled. A real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. I know. That's why I'm still here. I watched him close his door, heard him getting ready for bed. Normal nighttime sounds. No checking if he was breathing. No fear of what I might find in the morning. Just my son, living his life, fighting his battles, writing his future. The war wasn't over. Depression doesn't just disappear. David might find new ways to harass us. There would be bad days, setbacks, challenges. But tonight, we were okay. We were together. We were family. And that was enough. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose between protecting your child and protecting your marriage? Or stood up for someone when others refused to see their truth? Tell me your story in the comments below. I really want to hear what you think.